Welcome everybody to the Fandom Zone. It is I, General Zod, and today I'm doing a little thing. Finally, LB on my channel where me and you are going to talk a movie again. Now, last time we got to talk like this, it was actually about a good movie that surprised us. This time, we're kind of up in the air on this. So, everybody, welcome a good friend here in the Fandom Zone, Mr. LB. Go ahead, LB. Tell these fine folks about yourself.
What's up, everybody? I'm LB from the Lonely Banter. I am ready to talk to somebody else other than myself about this movie.
Yeah, there's so much to unpack tonight, and LB, I gotta be honest with you. You, I know you probably keep tabs on everything that I post on Twitter and stuff, and I've had some people on my channel. I'm gonna have another person from the Fandom Menace, and I hang in those circles, but I wanted to try to be, I wanted us to try to hit it from a different angle rather than going, uh, say, the Star Wars route, because we already know that that's destroyed. I want to hit this tonight from a film perspective because I know both me and you can go into those kind of details, with the cinematography and things like that, and kind of talk about it just from a film aspect because I don't think we can really qualify this as a Star Wars movie. That's just my opinion.
Interesting. I mean, for me, if I give it one positive, I thought it was more of a Star Wars movie than the Last Jedi. Like I like the whole adventure part of it. Like, but you know, it is what
And
it is.
you know, Senate. No, I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna try to defend this. I'm going to try to speak objectively about the film itself and why this is bad on a film on a film level and why it's good because I think this doesn't have as many negatives as Last Jedi, but I don't think it has all that many positives either. I think it's just in a weird middle place. Like this, honestly, first off, LB, let's address one thing. Is it just me? And several people have said this, and I agree with it. That doesn't this feel like this should have been a trilogy on its own?
Um, Honestly, I haven't paid any. I haven't seen anyone's reviews. I haven't read any reviews. I don't know what any other person feels about the movie other than what you just said to me. So you're saying people say that this movie should have been split into like a trilogy?
Yeah, there's a general feeling, and I tend to agree with it. Like they tried to compact what feels like a long story because they throw a lot of stuff at you, and it feels like they compact a movie that should have had a runtime of about 4 hours or been two separate movies because the amount of information you're getting thrown at you is just astonishing. Like the stuff that's going on, things coming in, things going out. It's just like so much, and there's no gap in it. And it's like, like introducing people, right? But really, you're trying to cram a whole storyline into one movie, you know? Like, for instance, Zora Bliss. Like, who is this person? We know she has some connection to Poe Dameron, and we get a little bit of backstory on what he used to do. But how does that advance his character? And why does that give us a reason to care about this new character or even connect with her?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I I didn't. I mean, for my review, like it was more so instant. I didn't talk about like a lot of stuff like that. I mean, I'm doing another spoiler discussion where I'll get more into details about it. But like, man, the movie, I felt that it was rushed. It feels like now I've had more time to think about it. It feels like they crammed in what was supposed to be like episode 8 story
Yep.
into episode 9 too. Like they went out of their way to fix things that Ryan Johnson completely ignored.
Now, here's the problem, and I totally agree with you. I feel like the movie's greatest flaw is the fact of actually trying to fix things. I feel like maybe the misstep was trying to correct someone else's work instead of just being like, you know what? Here's where we're at. What can I do with what we have? It felt like he tried to like you said, do like a redo of 8 and 9, but there's so much stuff happening in a 2 hour runtime. It's just flying past, and you're like, well, what does this person have to do with this person? Why are they going after this? And it's just like like we were talking about before we started. But by the time you get to the end of this film, it feels like a big nosedive into like a cliff because there's so much shit just coming out from left field.
Yeah, yeah. And you know, I could see why people would like this movie because like what we're saying is rushed. It's like it doesn't give people time to sit there and think about, okay, this doesn't make sense. For a lot of people, like general people, like it's just boom, 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 onto the next one, onto the next one, onto the next one. And it don't give you enough time, like with all the reveals in the movie, it doesn't give you time to sit there and think, okay, this doesn't make any sense.
Like, I mean, I'm glad. I honestly didn't want to see it again, but my friend was like, "Oh, it's your birthday. I'm going to take you to see a 3D movie." I'm like, "Oh, what movie?" He was like, "Rise of Skywalker." I'm like, "Son of a bitch." I'm like, "You guys really hate me. My friends hate me." I go, "You know I have a channel. You know I rant about this stuff. Why would you take me to the thing that I've been ranting about for months now?" So, so I go to see it with my friends, and now the second time, I don't go in as a fan. I'm going in objectively, and I'm looking at it from a critical eye, right? And I'm like you said, LB, when you really stop and analyze it, stuff is happening so fast. It's almost like JJ is trying to camouflage the fact that there's a lot of things that don't make sense. So he just throws a bunch of things at you, rapid fire,
Yep.
to where you can't really process that what he's putting in the movie doesn't make sense to anything that's been established.
Yep. I mean, that honestly, this is what J.J. Abrams does with his movies. Um, I mean, just look at the Force Awakens for example. Like the whole marketing was, we're taking it back to the Star Wars you loved. We're bringing back this person, that person, that person. We're going back to shooting on film. No more of this green screen, blue screen set stuff. Nostalgia, nostalgia, nostalgia. Like he makes the salad and he dumps the whole salad dressing onto the thing. That's what he does, man. And he did this again.
And you know, here's the odd thing. I went into I did a private screening, and in my private screening, people were pretty pissed off, right?
Mm.
But now that I think about it, it was all of us employees or fans. You know what I'm saying? We know movies and things like that. So I go to this screening. There's people laughing. There was an applause at the end of the movie.
Yeah, yeah. For mine, it was an applause. I wouldn't say it was like, let's say for example, the end of Endgame, where like everyone's clapping.
Yep.
For this, it was select people clapping. I mean, during the movie, there was some laughs from people, um, some claps for like when Luke came back, they clapped for him. Um, when the kiss happened, I heard somebody like make a shrieking noise. I don't know if it was on some, oh my goodness, this is great, finally, or it was like, but I wouldn't say this was. I mean, the biggest ovation the movie got was when the Star Wars logo came up at the beginning. Other than that, I wouldn't say this was some overwhelming, joyful crowd.
Yeah, and it's this is weird. This is weird for me because I mean, I don't know exactly what the general audience take on it now. I was talking to the unicorn. She was working tonight, and she said that people were coming out of the theater angry. So I think this is going to be an interesting case to see what exactly this does. Like, we know it's going to have big numbers, but I think it's going to be really weird to see what the repeat business is going to be like.
Yeah.
Like, is this going to be a movie that's going to have people like, hey, Last Jedi was so terrible and this seems like an improvement. I'm going to tell someone else about it. Or is it going to be, wow, Last Jedi was bad, but oh, this was worse.
I mean, it's
So
funny. For what it's worth, on Rotten Tomatoes, the tomato meter is 57%. So that's the critics, and the audience score is 87%. Oh, you know what's funny? When I walked out, I got one of the cinema score things. So I did my rating.
so before we dive really deep and we start dissecting this, and anyone who's coming in, fair warning, there's going to be spoiler talk here. So if you don't want the movie spoiled for you, I'm not going to be one of these people who are posting stuff. I'm just giving you a warning. We're going to dive deep into this and talk about some very bad inconsistencies and some things that didn't work, and whatnot. But before we dive into that, LB, where was your rating at?
I gave it a 6 out of 10. 2.75 out of 5. A D. We was talking before. I was going to give this movie if the movie continued like how the first half or whatever was, I would have gave the movie a 7 out of 10.
That's
But
fair, yeah.
but when that moment happened, I was like, okay. And then it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. Honestly, it reminded me of The Force Awakens. Like, I was okay with The Force Awakens until the third act. But this one,
Yep.
it started much earlier because it started way before the third act.
Yeah. Yeah, and we're gonna deep dive into this because we're gonna put on our thinking caps and see where exactly the turn is. But I have a suspicion that you and me are about at the same point. LB, I'm gonna say you were generous. I gave it a 5.
Yeah, I mean, for me, a 5 out of 10, that's like a straight F for me, you know? Like, I go on the school grading scale, so like, yeah, I mean, that would be a straight F. So you say this is a F movie.
Basically. And the only reason why, to be honest with you, I brought myself up to a 5 was the visuals and what you said, the beginning of the movie. But the biggest thing that grinds my gears, I can deal with a movie being bad in the beginning and then picking itself back up. But it really sucks when a movie starts off good and then crashes and burns at the end, because it's like, that feeling when you get to the ending and you're like, man, I just sat 2 hours and 21 minutes for this. It's that feeling. Like, yeah, if I had known what the ending was going to be. Unfortunately, I sat 2 times for that. I thought alcohol would make it better, LB. It didn't. It did not.
Yeah, man.
So
Like honestly, I started like just really just uh, rolling my eyes and just shaking my head a lot. Coming in the third act.
so I mean, let's just start diving into this and going into the beginning. We got them coming back. Um, First off with the crawl. One thing that irked me right away was the fact of I hate exposition that's used to explain gaps in time. I feel like that's a lazy writing technique. And I mean, this isn't exclusive to J.J. Abrams. I just hate when they give you like the words to explain events that have been happening, unless it's like something like, I don't know, like Star Wars has done it before, but I feel like where they start you off kind of made sense. So the exposition wasn't necessarily explaining stuff that should be explained, but more to let you know where we're at right now.
Mm-hmm.
This felt like in the beginning, they were explaining stuff to you that was never even mentioned once. You know what I mean? When they saw
Yeah.
like Emperor Palpatine's voice was heard and stuff like this. And I'm
Right.
watching the opening crawl going, well, if we are to assume he's pulling the strings, right? And he's behind Snoke and whatever else, why has no one else, like, why have we not heard any of this
Right.
in Force Awakens or Last Jedi?
Right. Like the opening crawl. Like I tried to write it down, but it moves too fast. But like I just did some bullet points. Like you said, the speaker voice. They're trying to find Palpatine. Like, okay, this was never mentioned, never hinted at. Like, what kind of mess is this, JJ? Like, you just pull this out of nowhere. Like, okay, he, Palpatine was the guy that pulled the strings from episode 1 to 3. He was the emperor in the original trilogy. It's kind of a big deal, you know, to have him in this movie, but you reintroduce him through a crawl. Like, come on, man. That was just lazy, man.
Thank you, LB. You know what? This is why I'm so glad to have you on because, like, when we had that Spider-Man talk, I knew that you would catch that because that was the first thing immediately that I caught.
Yeah.
And Cybernetic Husky had a good point in the comments. He said, "Yeah, they should have shown Palpatine in a previous movie, right? You don't even got to show him. You just do a voice. You can. I mean, look at the old prequels, right? They didn't show him all the time. Remember, I think it was episode 2 where he was out in the holocron or whatever. He
Mm-hmm.
wasn't in the movie at all, except for as senator. But that's the big plot twist, right? But they showed him in his robe in the holocron, and you were like, okay, he's still in the background. And this is what leads me to that theory that they had not planned to have Palpatine in this movie because there's
Oh,
no
they did it.
setup.
There was no plans for him to be in this movie. The Last Jedi received so much backlash. They was just like, man, what can we do another time? And once again, to do the nostalgia thing. What can we do? What can we do to pull something off? Oh, I know. We'll put Palpatine in it. That'll be a nod to the this prequels and the original trilogy. Because I mean, they've killed off Han, they killed off Luke, Carrie Fisher's dead. Like, let's be real. Lando's cool to people, but Lando ain't enough for people. Like he wasn't that major of a character like that. You know, it's like, come on.
So, so right off the bat, the opening crawl, we have that. Now, here's another issue I have. Um, the Poe and Finn and the gang are in the Millennium Falcon, and they're getting some intel, right? But once again, there's no explanation of why this intel is so vital, or how long they've had a spy in the First Order, or how they set up this designated meeting, you know? And that's what we're talking about when we're saying it's rushed. There's normally scenes in Star Wars where even if you have like people in like say the commander's ship or whatever, we'll say the Rebel Alliance ship, and they're going, yeah, we've got a spy and we're going to send so and so to go retrieve the information, and then bam, you have your action sequence. In this, they just cut to the action sequences, which was my second big problem. The cuts in this are so incredibly bad and choppy.
Man,
Like,
yeah,
oh my God.
yeah, like the major. I know this will be jumping way to the end of the movie, but the major point issue I had with a cut was when Palpatine allegedly killed Kylo Ren. Right, he
Mm-hmm.
blasted him over there. He was standing up. Then they cut to him sitting down. It's like, come on, man. Palpatine is an old man. He's not 30 years old. He can't just move back to his chair and sit down just like that. Just like, come on, like, ugh. And like, oh man, I feel like a lot of this stuff in this movie just happened. Is like, you ask somebody a question like, why did you do that? And their answer is because.
Yeah, it's like another thing too that I hate, and I've heard this in cinema terms a lot, right? The MacGuffin, the
Mm-hmm.
object that, in case you guys don't know, a MacGuffin is an object that basically they just give some kind of bullshit explanation to advance the plot.
Yep.
So if they can't think of anything, they say, "Oh, this MacGuffin is going to be the thing that they're searching for. That's going to get them from point A to point B." And I hate MacGuffins because they're a sign of lazy writing. When you put something, it's like a fix-it-all. That's a MacGuffin. So the MacGuffin in this was like a Sith holocron thing that apparently was a navigation system, could navigate you through this impossible place to get to the temples and everything else. So they're on the hunt for this MacGuffin thing. Now, let's talk about Rey. Holy shit. Um, Let me just, before I go on my tangent, do you think Rey is a Mary Sue in this movie?
Um, I wouldn't go so far to call her Mary Sue. The reason why I say this, I mean, overall she's a Mary Sue, but for this movie, at least things were explained why, and it was only explained at the point where the reveal happened. If the reveal never happened, then it's like, okay, how in the world are you able to do all these things? Like, for example, when she blasted the ship with the force lightning, and she didn't know how to do that. I have no problem with that. But
No, that was good. That,
that
to
was
the
like
credit, that was good.
that was one of the few times they actually explained, or she did something and there was like a consequence to what she did, or it's like, oh my goodness, how did I do that? I didn't try. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Unlike the Force Awakens, everything Rey did is just like, because she's Rey.
Don't ask questions. She's Rhea Stark. No, oh, sorry, I was having Game of Thrones flashbacks. No, but I mean, so she's doing this training montage, but I don't know why. Okay, take Luke's training, Anakin's training, and stuff like that. Maybe I'm being nitpicky, and you can let me know if I am, but I feel like it was just half-hearted because they knew people would be pissed off about Rey not having any training. And the other thing is, Leia's training her. Like, I know they give that explanation, and yes, I know in Star Wars lore she's a Jedi, but keep in mind, people, she's a non-practicing Jedi. Like, she gave up that life to be Princess Leia, to, govern whatever the rebellion is calling themselves and stuff like that. So you're telling me all of a sudden in the course of this movie, she's going to be able to train her to be a Jedi. And she's not a master. She's not even a knight.
Uh, I had a problem with that. And now I know there's a lot of details in Star Wars. I don't remember everything, but was it like seriously? Was it even mentioned in the Last Jedi that Luke was trained Leia or anything?
No, no, not to my recollection.
Because like did this that came out of nowhere? Like Leia is training Rey, and Rey Leia's her Jedi master. I'm just like, where is this coming from?
you know what I mean? And thank you. I was like, I'm glad I'm talking to you about this because I felt like you, LB, where I need someone to talk to just make sure it's not me because you know what they say about a Star Wars fan. It's, misogynistic or whatever else. So I wanted to make sure I'm not being, the typical white male here and just, hating on woman power. But I'm like, you know, and this is the problem. If you even gave a nod to this in Force Awakens or in, Last Jedi, some kind of backstory, then it would be more plausible. But from the typical person's point of view, you just gave us Mary Poppins in Last Jedi to just throw it out there that she can use the Force. But you never established that she has any kind of rank or designation. Like, she barely knew how to use the powers herself, and now she's gonna go teach Rey, who can apparently levitate fucking boulders around her, how to control her power. It doesn't make sense. Even if you had a scenario where Obi-Wan Kenobi as a Force ghost or Yoda or Luke or someone was training her, which isn't out of the realm of possibilities, and we'll talk about that bullshit later. That would have been more believable. But to sit here and tell me that Princess Leia, is taking time out and somehow coordinating the Resistance and training a Jedi, I just don't buy it.
Yeah. Now, I know I don't have a problem with the whole she's continuing this training thing. My issue is like I said, Leia, but at the same time, it's like okay, I never seen she didn't struggle with these Force powers or whatever in the Last Jedi, and now she is.
And you know what that is, LB? That's a band-aid. Okay, part of me wants to give JJ credit for trying to do something for the fans. Like, when you watch the movie, and this is on the level, people, I believe JJ is sincerely trying to tell the fans, like, yeah, I get what you're saying, and try to throw some stuff in there. But there's fan service, and then there's poorly placed fan service. And it was like, it's a good idea on paper, but when you put it into the context of the script, it doesn't make any sense. It throws the continuity of your story off.
Man.
Man, I'm sorry. I'm in a real philosophical, just breaking it down because, I saw this the second time and I had all these things in my head and I'm just like, this just can't be me. I'm starting to see through the bullshit and analyze it. And I'm like, there's a lot of things that aren't quite clicking. So, she's doing her training thing. Finn and Poe have their adventure. Now, here's a question. And I know how you feel about Finn. But from your perspective, did you feel like as they're going through their wacky adventures that some kind of bond has grown, that? Did you feel the love and, the strong bond between this group of individuals?
I felt like they I wouldn't say a strong bond, but I felt like they are actually friends now because like the way that they were bantering around the entire movie with the jokes and stuff, it's like they're trying to show that they're friends, but I wouldn't say they had a strong bond
Yeah, I
because
was thinking
we don't even know how how long this movie is after the Last Jedi, for example.
Yeah, that's another thing. In that crawl, that's another thing that pissed me off. In that crawl, they told us everything, but he didn't give us a time jump. And I could have sworn I'd have to go back through and watch all of the Star Wars movies again. I started with the prequels, but I know at least in the prequels, they give you at least some kind of sense of time, right? And in this one, you have no sense of when is this right after Last Jedi? Has a couple of years passed? I mean, they're talking like the bond that they have is like they've gone on all these adventures, but there's no time for us to place like what has happened. We don't even know the stuff that happened to lead up to where they are at this moment, and it's confusing. It's very confusing because then you're just like, okay, well, when did this happen? It, so Ray and them have their banter, and then they catch wind that they got to go and get this MacGuffin that's supposed to tell them where this Sith planet thing is, or this artifact that's supposed to tell them where the Sith planet is, because they find out that Palpatine is raising an army to wreck the universe. So then we go to Kylo. And now let me just get your opinion before I say my piece. What did you think of Kylo Ren's arc?
And look, it makes no sense to me. Like, how can you justify someone who killed their father and try to redeem them? How can you redeem a person killing his father? How do you do that? Like, I don't buy it at all. Like, yeah, he's a bad guy, but he killed his daddy.
And you don't kill your family, man. That's just that takes you to that cold-blooded level. Like,
Right.
and you know what? I'm gonna try to be fair here. I can kind of see what JJ was going for, but I feel like there's not enough. How do I say it? There's not enough movie to justify a redemption. I mean, he does one or two good things, but you're talking, and I mean, he does the thing we'll get to at the ending. And I guess in retrospect, you could say that's payment. But I mean, like you, I don't buy it because you took so much time in saying that basically in the first movie, you said he did the most irredeemable act, right? He killed his father. He went completely dark side. And I felt like a better plot for the movie would have been just to run on that. Like, make Kylo Ren the bad guy. Why bring in Palpatine when you have someone who killed their own father and turned on the person who was their master? I mean, you have your villain right there. And
Right.
most people were saying they didn't want Kylo Ren redeemed. So why in the world of God would you give him a redemption arc? That made no sense.
It's, and not only that, like, this man, like, really just disappears from the movie.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he does. He does. Yeah. He has like what he puts his helmet together, disappears like 20 minutes or so, threatens someone, disappears hunting for people, who knows, disappears again, threatens someone else, then force threatens Ray. disappears to go get her. Yeah, man. He should have been like a force magician.
Man. And you know what? And like I said, this is when the movie took a whole different twist, and it went downhill for me. When Leia and the whole I need to save him, and now that's the end of my life. That whole thing is just like, hold on, hold up. So you mean to tell me you could have been done this to save him, and you only choosing to do it now?
You know, you pointed out something that I actually didn't think about because, to be honest with you, that whole thing confused me. Because
Right.
like,
That whole Leia, and then Luke's whole thing, pointless.
pointless, pointless. And here's the thing, and I'm gonna call this as a Star Wars fan. I hated the fact that Luke Skywalker caught the lightsaber. Maybe it's petty, but when you establish, and in Disney's own words, they said the original movies count. When you establish that, I believe it was in Empire Strikes Back, or no, or maybe the Return of the Jedi. I wanted to. No, it was Empire Strikes Back, where he goes, he's talking to Obi-Wan's ghost, and he says, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna face my father and blah blah blah. And then he goes, I need your guidance. And he goes, you're going where I can't go, right? Insinuating that Force Ghost cannot interfere with, you know, the human world, or however you want to say it, right? They just guide you, but they can't directly interact.
Right.
And then you just fuck it all up by having Luke catch a lightsaber. So then, with that knowledge, why doesn't Luke just take out the Empire, the Emperor? Like, why
Yeah.
have the talk with Ray? Why does the talk exist? You know, that invalidates your whole entire film right there, because you can't say now that the Force Ghost can interact with the real world, but then go by the theory of Luke isn't going to interact with the world because it's Rey's journey and she has 1,000 Jedi bullshit living inside of her, whatever.
Yeah. Another thing that the reason why, because
So, I mean, I found it kind of weird is that you know, that you would like, and I understand the callback. I understand that it's probably a big fu to Ryan Johnson when he had Luke say that line. You should never disrespect this, you know. And so it was kind of like trying to do a role reversal on his character and make him a little bit older or wiser or whatever else to try to repair that. But it just kind of comes off like, I don't know, weird and out of place. That's the best words I got.
I mean that's how I looked at it. Honestly, it like his whole scene was just to basically undo the damage that was done in the Last Jedi, but it didn't work for me at all.
Yeah, because it raises more questions than it does answers. And that's one big word right there, damage. It's like damage control mixed with trying to finish a trilogy. God damn, I don't even know.
Like this movie pretty much it confirms anybody that knew this, but they had no plan, man. When they decided to make a trilogy, they had no plan. They didn't have a plan at all, man.
And I said this before, and I used the Marvel comparison because it's the best one, right? You have Kevin, who was the overseer, and yeah, there's a couple of bad movies in the Marvel trilogy, but even in the bad films, there's still connectivity. there's still story. I mean, I just went the other day and watched Thor: The Dark World, and let's be real, that's probably one of the worst in the MCU lineup. But when you really watch it, even though it's boring and the movie itself is terrible, the ending and the beginning, they still all have connectivity, right?
Yeah.
And this has no connectivity because you had one director who clearly had one kind of vision in mind. And then you had the middle one come in and say, subverted expectations
Yeah.
and just wreck it. And this movie is that weird, like, feeling like they sat in the boardroom and they had no clue whatsoever how to fix it.
They tried. They really tried, and they failed.
So, we got to the Emperor. Now, here's the other thing that didn't make sense to me. The Emperor uh, names the thing the Final Order. Oh, God, as if
Right.
the First Order. So, stormtroopers are probably confused because they were like, "Man, I thought we were the First Order. Now we're listening to the Final Order." No. So he raises all of these ships, and now here's another big plot point problem for me. How long have them ships been underneath the ground? How do they all of a sudden, like, that was a whole armada? How is it manned and everything else? Like, where did the people come from? They like I understand that they kind of got a one in Last Jedi, but I mean, if you go by the Mandalorian and all the other stuff that's out, the First Order is supposed to be like not quite as powerful as the Empire, and yet all of a sudden you have a giant fleet fully manned and ready to go.
Hey man, just because.
Like, it doesn't. It's like, okay, JJ, from a technical aspect, are you gonna explain where the people came from? Like,
Nope.
in the movie, you had one, one Star Destroyer we saw all the way up to that point, right? One that I assumed was left with the same people in the boardroom. And then all of a sudden he raises an armada, and I'm like, it's Game of Thrones all over again. Where did all these people come from?
It's like this movie wanted to be Avengers Endgame, but didn't pay attention to what happened before Avengers Endgame. Cause like man, like for example, a lot of the Avengers movies, for example, both Infinity War and Endgame, their final battles involved a bunch of people. But the difference is they're not fighting random people coming out of nowhere. They're fighting aliens. This- oh man. All right.
And and when you think of Avengers, even Endgame, with some of the plot holes that it had, one problem it never had is there was still tight story backing it up. And we could debate and, find points of references to explain things. The time travel thing was the only thing that's still kind of, bleh. But I mean, it had a tight enough story to explain stuff, right? Thanos spent years building an army. They established that.
Yep.
It was laid out. This, you established, okay, first movie, apparently First Order is the shit. They got all of these things. They got the Death Star 2.0. It gets blown up. Tons of people die. Last Jedi, they're pissy. They go, they hunt them down, whatever. Ray fucking moves a shit ton of rocks and stops all of these people, right? And I assume kills a massive amount of them. And then there's this time gap in between. All of a sudden, what, the First Order recouped everything and they're fully stocked? And if that's the case, why in the different scenes did we not see other ships? And I mean, maybe I missed something, LB, but for a majority of the movie, I only saw his flagship and TIE fighters and shit here and there. but I didn't see enough to explain a whole armada that's able to be manned. You know, it was like group of people, bam, massive army. And it's just like, where is this coming from? So we got that. We already talked about the scene. Now, let me ask you, did you think they killed Chewie when she did the little force lightning?
Um, I for a second I did, but
I'm
then I
not
was
going to put
like,
it on.
nah.
You know, I had mixed feelings because if they killed him off there, I would have been pissed. But then, like, how everything played out, I was kind of more pissed because then I'm like, well, in hindsight now, that probably would have been really impactful. And remember how you were saying it showed that Ray didn't have complete control? I think it took away from Ray's learning, like her growth, because you gave the character a consequence, but then in the next scene you said, "Oh, it's okay, Chewie's fine," right? But that
Yep.
takes away Ray growing as a character because you're still not giving her a consequence for her action. Like,
It's that it's that it, I'm just tired of this. Like, I mean, does this all the time. It's the whole we're gonna fake kill these people.
yeah, and to be fair, the MCU does do that a lot, and I think it's to the detriment of storytelling because, um, in a world like this, like in Star Wars, in Marvel, and things like that, people bitch about Infinity or not Infinity War, yeah, Affinity War. Um, but the thing that shocked people the most was the fact that the villain got the snap, right? Because there was real consequences. Like he won. And I think that resonates with people. And maybe they're mad about it or whatever, but that, it gives realism to the story. It generates buzz because it's like, wow, Thanos is a badass. He just snapped out half the universe. He did it. The heroes tried and they failed. That's what makes that movie so impactful. And when you have a moment where you kill a character like that, I mean, now that I watched it a second time, I'm like, they should have actually killed him at that moment because at that moment you can have character growth. People might hate it, it might throw some shade on your character, but Ray needs that because it shows that it can make mistakes, that she's not this perfect person, that she
Right.
doesn't fully grasp her powers and there's consequences to her actions. And if you're a really smart writer, you can introduce that in the story because then that makes her more wary the next time she wants to use her powers, right? Maybe she doesn't want to because she's got that in the back of my mind. I killed my best friend inadvertently. That to me would have made better character growth.
Yeah, but Ray's perfect, so they're like, deal with it.
But yep, skip to the next scene. Everyone's fine. Everyone's okay. So, um, and I'm jumping around people because it's like a 2-hour movie. I'm not gonna go through every single freaking scene. We'll be here all night. But let's go to. They finally decide, yay, Chewie's alive. We've got to go and save him, right?
Uh huh.
Now, LB, is it just me, or was this the stupidest fucking scene ever of them running through that Death Star? You're telling me not one fucking stormtrooper can hit them. And we're not talking they're like a good distance away, like in like Star Wars or something like that. I mean, they're literally like a couple of feet away, and they can't fucking hit these people running in a straight line? Are you shitting me?
I mean, that's just Star Wars. The stormtroopers can't shoot.
Like, you know what? I can buy that. I can buy that for certain scenes. Like, it's a big trope, and I understand why he did that. But there comes a point that even in like Phantom Menace and stuff like that, where, they at least winged him or they made him like turn back to a corner or something like that. This one, they run like it's a video game. Like, seriously, folks, it looks like your favorite video game, that first person shooter where you're running down the hall and you're just mowing down people on like God mode.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like. And I mean, don't get me wrong, Poe gets winged and they all get surrounded, but it's just like, it's kind of like you were saying with scenes they put in, like, it's, did we really need that? Could you have like maybe cut it, maybe shot it a little bit differently, like make them hide behind a pillar or something, duck out, shoot a little bit, and then hit them.
Like, I never once thought that they would in any kind of danger. Not one time.
Thank you, LB. Ah, so true. Like, that's my point of why this little detail bothers me, is because in your action scenes, you have to give a character, like, for an audience to connect with the characters, right? You want to feel like they're in danger. Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you want to feel like you're there with them and you're like, oh man, part of the great experience of movies like this is like, oh, you don't know if they're going to make it out of the situation. But not once when they're running down that hallway do I feel like they're in any kind of danger. I'm just like, no, they're going to shoot this guy. Yep. Turn around, shot that guy, and it takes away from what could have been a cool action sequence.
Yep.
So, and then, just kind of maybe jumping ahead, or we'll just highlight your favorite character. Bro, what is it with Finn trying to chase Rey? Like, like, this dude literally. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, man. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I want to roll here, but like, this dude literally, how you have that friend, and they blocked you. You're in the friend zone, and you continuously, like, you're holding their bags and you're picking them up and giving them rides.
His whole reason is his only reason he's there is for Rey. Like, I counted how many times he said Rey. He said Rey 17 times. He might have said it more, but I know he said it at least 17 times.
LB, I gotta say, you went more in depth than I did.
Everything in the, like, it continues. Like, everything about Finn first reaction is Rey. Everything. And I didn't buy this whole make Finn a general thing at all.
Oh my god, yes. Dude, I'm not gonna lie. What also made me want to talk to you when this movie got done was when I got to that part, and I remember you with your videos about Finn and things like that. And when they made him a general, I said, oh my god, I gotta talk to LB and see what he thinks about this bullshit. Like, what? How? Why? Go ahead, LB. Go.
Like,
my mind's melting.
How? Like, we don't know the timeline of this trilogy. We don't. Like, we don't know how much time. Like, we know, the only thing we know is that The Last Jedi is immediately after The Force Awakens. We don't know how far along this movie is. But I'm willing to bet it's not past 2 years. How does this guy go from being a janitor for the First Order to a general? Like, what did you show us in here that shows that he needs to be a janitor? I mean, a general. The entire first movie, he's running away from fighting. The second one, he's running behind Rose Tico. In this one, he's just doing what he's told. Like this one, I mean, I'm not going to discredit him entirely. This one, he's a little bit more assertive on things, but general, and man. It's speaking about Poe. Poe in the Last Jedi is, I know, Mr. Know It All, right?
Yep.
But in this movie, I don't know if I could be a general, Leia. I don't know if I could do this by myself. Hey,
Oh my
Finn,
God,
you could be
yes.
my co-general because I can't do this alone. What? What?
You
Man.
know, and I'm going to speak from a military perspective here. Nowhere have I been faced with, or any great military general in the history of fucking, armies, nowhere has anyone gone, you know, this struggle is real. It's so hard. I need my friends to all be promoted. Get the fuck out of here. And I know I'm getting raw here, but no, I got to because I'm Zod. But, get the fuck out of here. Like, you're going to tell me that LB, could you picture the great generals of wars past? Look at their commanders going.
Like for one, like I've never been in the military, but I'm willing to bet not one general worked his way up to becoming a general, and it was like, oh, I don't know if I could do this, because I'm pretty sure whoever names people generals, they know this person's character, et cetera, et cetera. And if they thought this person was going to waffle on being a general, they would not even think about offering this person a general position. It's like,
Exactly. And this goes to fan service done poorly. Because, yes, I understand you want to right the wrongs. Because, I mean, let's be real. Poe Dameron is an intriguing character in The Force Awakens. And then in Last Jedi, Rian Johnson just completely cuts his balls off. So I understand, like, JJ is like, oh, yeah, we're going to fix this, right? But you can't, and I understand he's trying to make the struggle, between him, not knowing if he can handle the position, and all of a sudden, he gets back up and he realizes that he can do it. But the way it's done is the problem. And that, I think that's a lot of this movie. It's not the sentiment that's terrible. It's the way it's executed that's god awful.
yeah.
I'm, well, yeah, I mean, like, as soon as I saw that, I was just like, no fucking way. Like, dude, like, I saw it coming, but I had that moment where I'm like, he's not gonna say it. Nah, he's not. Oh, fuck me. He's gonna make Finn the general. Are you shitting me? Like, where is this coming from?
I did not. I tell you what. I didn't think they was going that route. I thought they was going to make Rose Tico the general.
I'm gonna be honest, and people will probably berate me, but I love Rose Tico, and she's my wife, Rose for life now. But I mean, like, I never had a problem with Rose Tico. I just thought she was horribly written. But I'll be honest with you, I would have accepted Rose Tico more than Finn.
Oh yeah. I mean, I would have been beside myself if they made Rose Tico general, but if it was between her and Finn, it's like the lesser of two evils. Like for her, she never was trying to run.
Yeah,
Finn,
she was just poorly written.
Finn is only there because he wants Rey. But speaking of Rose Tico, man, they straight Jar Jar Binks her.
Man, yo, like, okay, let's be real about this. Like, I've never had a problem with the actress Kelly Marie Tran. I feel like she's gotten a lot of shit that she shouldn't have, because she's probably one of the few people who hasn't gone on Twitter and the Instagram or said anything. And she got attacked, right? And like,
So they say.
so they, and so she says, we don't know what's true or what's not. But from what I've seen and what I can gather, she seems like a pretty nice person in real life, right? And like, I feel like them saying like, "Oh, people didn't like this character, so we're going to scale her down." I felt like that's kind of really shitty towards her
I
because it's
mean,
like,
that's what they did with Jar Jar.
like, like, yeah, you got me there. You got me there. But
It's the same
to be
exact
fair,
thing.
they made him a senator though.
Yeah, I mean
She
that's what I
was
said in
still
my
just a
review. I'm
worker.
like, bruh, they straight Jar Jar Binks Rose Tico in this movie. But the only difference is despite Jar Jar only having like 2 scenes in episode 2, he had important scenes. Rose Tico's just she's in a lot of scenes, but she's not doing anything. She's just there.
Which I feel like, you know, and I hate to go this route, but we're talking all this equality bullshit that Hollywood pushes, right? Oh, strong, powerful women, blah, blah, blah. And yet they fucked her character over so badly
Oh
in
yeah,
this
I mean,
movie. Like, if you talk representation, you guys straight shaft Rose Tico.
I mean, to be honest with you, like I see why they did it, but at the same time, it's like you can fix her character if you write her better.
Exactly. Thank you. That's what I mean. Like, okay, I understand there's problems there, but that was by bad writing. So, in that
Right.
respect,
Like her
you're a
whole
fucking
role in The
writer.
Last Jedi was to preach an agenda and get in the way of everything. Like, so what do you so how do you fix this? You just put her behind the scenes as an extra and have her speak like one line every other scene.
Yo, I gotta be honest with you. If I was her, I would have told them to go fuck themselves, honestly. Because, like, that to me, and I'm saying coming from that perspective, I would have been yo, you're basically just making me, like you said, an extra in the last movie. I guess a paycheck's a paycheck, but I mean, that's kind of shitty. To be honest, what is she gonna do after this? But she probably needs them paychecks. But I mean, all the diversity that Disney is talking, they, I didn't see a lot of diversity in play on that front. I saw damn man, like that was pretty harsh.
Hey man, I I mean I didn't mind it. Like I I don't think Rose Tico's character was the worst character ever in the last one, but I didn't think she was good. But so I didn't mind. I didn't mind her not doing anything in this movie, but it was so that was one thing that stuck out to me. It's just like, man, they really Jar Jar Binks her. They, they really did. I I went into the movie thinking, okay, they're going to make sure they're going to go out of their way to do something for her to like to make up for the alleged trolls that ran her off of social media. But nah, JJ did some fan service there and put it in the background.
Speaking of which, let's get the big question out of the way because I'm sure there's going to be right now my count's a little low, and thank you everybody who's here. If you're new, hit that subscribe button, or you liking our talk, hit that like button. Anyways, I know there's 100 people streaming right now.
Yeah, everybody's streaming. Everybody.
But let me just ask you, because me and you are pretty level headed on this thing, and I'm just going to call this myself. I don't feel like there's a lot of agenda politics in this. I mean, even putting Rose Tico in the back, I feel like that's a big statement that's saying, like, hey, we're not going this route. What were your feelings on that?
I didn't have. If anybody, man, look, we do YouTube. We know how they do, man. But
Yep.
there wasn't any identity politics, any SJW stuff in this movie. None whatsoever. Nothing.
And I've heard people focus on Ray, but look, Ray, I feel, is not so much an identity politic as just poor writing. She wasn't written well in Force Awakens. Like there was setup there, but she just wasn't developed. We assumed the development was going to come in Last Jedi. It never did. The big reveal was, oh, she's no one.
Yeah.
This one, JJ tries his hardest to like we talked about earlier with that scene, give her like consequences and things like that, and training, which he clearly like understood, and people were pissy about that. But I think Ray's more a product of bad writing. The rest of the movie, I don't feel like the females really stood out or anything like that. Like Zora Bliss was in it for like 5 seconds and then 5 more seconds. I don't even know where that random black chick came from. Did you know who she was? Like I kind of got up and went to the bathroom in that
I
scene.
I don't I don't remember her name at all, but she was on the planet they was on where the Death Star was. The broken down Death Star.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and uh, essentially she's what Finn was. So that's how they bonded because they was the same. They shared the same story as far as the First Order stuff.
Oh, okay. Because like
So
I came in and I'm
of,
seeing this
of
random chick and I'm like, why
of
does she
course,
have this bow?
so like of course the two black characters they share something in common. It's like, bro, come on, man. And of course she likes him. It's like, bro.
Dude, dude, Finn pisses me off so much. This dude literally has women throwing themselves
Right.
at him, and he's all about Ray. Like, dude, end of Force Awakens, I would have been with 3 different chicks. I'm just saying. I would have been with Rose Tico. I would have been with this other side chick. It's a couple of aliens.
Man, but shoot. Before I forget, like the closest thing we can get to that identity politics is when Zor with like Poe is trying to, get with Zori Bliss and she's rejecting him. But for you people that think everything is SJW, that happens in real life, people. Women reject men.
Yeah, and you know what? Even though she rejected him, okay, I'm gonna tell a personal story in my life. Um, I am with Bitchy Unicorn. In case y'all don't know, no spoiler, I'm sure there. But she said no to me,
Right.
several times, just because she shot him down. There was clearly some kind of tension there.
Yeah. It was it
So
was it was clear to me that she wanted him, but she wasn't going to just let him get it easily.
yeah,
Which
yeah,
there's nothing wrong with that.
yeah, to me, that scene spoke out of like a healthy like chase scene because if you take it into context of that final scene and she came back, and I'm thinking she didn't come back because Lando, don't get me
Right.
wrong, I fucking love Lando. I don't care that he wasn't in this movie that much. I got that like 80s feeling when I saw him. I'm like, Billy D. Williams.
Bruh. Lando was a savage, man. Did you notice him? This was Lando. Like, did you notice like when he was talking to Ray and he's like, "Send her my love," and then Ray says, "You give it to her yourself." And then at the end of the movie, he's trying to hook up with the black chick.
Yep.
I'm like, bruh, this girl is young enough to be your granddaughter, and you trying to hook up with her. All right, Lando, I see you, bruh.
He gave that smoke. I'm not gonna lie. Um, and to be fair to this movie, there were some scenes I legitimately laughed. I did. There were some scenes where I was like, "Oh, okay, that's cool." I mean, this just suffers from like poor writing, and I mean, so um, let's get to the ending of this because I think for you and me, that's where this kind of falls apart. So, for you, what in particular about the ending where you were like, this thing is taking a nosedive fast? Tell
Oh
us
well,
all that turning moment.
when Kylo got fake killed in the middle, that's when it took a nosedive. But I'm gonna say at the end, it was when Ray and Palpatine were going back and forth, and they essentially took the Thanos Iron Man scene in Endgame, and they basically stole that scene and just reworded it a little bit. And it's like, okay, y'all brought Palpatine back for no reason. Like, you brought him back to kill him. Like
Yeah,
there was no backstory or no alluding to him coming back, but you brought him back into this movie for Ray to kill him. Like, okay, so I look at it this way: since Ray already defeated Kylo Ren in the first movie, she had to defeat somebody bigger. And my issue was this: like, when he gets his full power or whatever back, when he takes the souls or power, whatever he took from Kylo and Ray, like he's blasting her with both of his hands, and Ray's literally there with one hand, stopping this from happening. And then just like that, she gets the other lightsaber, whatever, and she kills him. I'm just like, what?
yeah, and here's my problem with that. One, Kylo went off a fucking cliff. So I assume at that point, the lightsaber did go out of his hand, but they never said where in relation to his body the lightsaber was. Okay. So, I mean, I took it as I thought both him and the lightsaber went off the cliff. So you're telling me the most calculated man in the galaxy, right? You're setting up this big thing like he faked his death. Okay, I'll try to buy that. He rebuilt this new empire. Okay, I'm trying to buy that. But you're telling me this man who spent years, 2 wars, planning this big thing where he's going to become the ultimate Sith Lord is going to overlook a minor detail like where the lightsabers are? Like, he's going to not, like, push them away from them? Like, that makes no sense. And, continue.
I'm I mean, I'm just not buying, especially with this whole Ray is his granddaughter. I'm not buying that at all, man. It's like that makes absolute no sense to me.
And this is terrible because Terrence is in the chat. What up, Terrence? And he says, that was the dumbest shit. And folks, Terrence gives the leeway to a lot of stuff. Like he be open-minded about a lot of things. And we're all calling bullshit on this. Every person who has a clear level thinking thought, like,
All right,
they
so
tried to.
I was trying to make sense of this earlier, but man, like, so the Force Awakens is what, 30 years after the Last Jedi? Is it?
Yep.
Episode 3 is how many years before A New Hope? Do you remember?
Uh, um, God.
It has to be around 20.
Mm-hmm.
So Palpatine is old in Episode 3.
Oh yeah.
How, I'm where so where on this timeline does he have a kid who doesn't look old, and that kid manages to have a daughter? So how old is Ray?
And see, LB, you hit the nail on the head right there. That's the problem. There is answers to some of Ray's story that are kind of forced, and you really have to like fucking just dispense all belief to even believe what's in this movie. But when you really dive into her character, and this is the problem with Ray, and this is why people can't decide what Ray is, she's still a mystery. I mean, think about it, LB. 3 movies now, and in all actuality, no one knows shit about Ray. No one knows nothing. There's still no answers to her character. And now you can say, oh, well, the mystery and blah, blah, blah. But look at other Jedi, right? Even mysterious characters have a fucking backstory. Fucking Boba Fett, who dies like 5 minutes into um the Empire Strikes Back, has more of a backstory than Rey. You can trace it back to episodes 1, 2, and 3, and then follow it in the Clone Wars. They fully flesh it out, right? And he's one of the most ematic characters in the Star Wars universe. I love him, right? But even he has a backstory to him where you can trace the lineage and the events that made him Boba Fett. Rey still has nothing. 3 movies in a series that's supposed to be about her, and we have nothing. I mean, by the end of this movie, you know about as much about her as you did in the first movie. When you really stop and think about it, we still don't know anything about her.
I mean, I want to see the people who like this, who say they love this movie, explain that one. Like, how is Rey Palpatine's granddaughter? Like, I want to see that one explained.
I like what Terrence said. He said, Rey's not a mystery. She's a product of bad forced writing.
And you know what I hated about that whole fight is when they was doing the voice things about the Jedi's, and
Mm-hmm.
and she's like, what did she say? I wrote it down exactly what she said. I forgot. She's like,
Oh.
I'm all the Jedi. It's like, bruh. Like, she said it like, I am Iron Man. I'm like, bruh.
Like, did Kevin come in and go, I'm going to give you guys this one for free because you really need help. Like Robert Downey Jr. sitting somewhere, and maybe he didn't watch this, but if he did, he's sitting there going, I did that better.
Yeah.
Because, like, and it's stuff like that. Like, okay, when you think about that scene, it could have worked because there was a consequence, right? Even though she did beat Palpatine with his own power, she died in the process. So, okay, I was willing to buy that. But then you're going to tell me this motherfucker falls off of a cliff? Like, and LB, that was something that bugged me. Kylo Ren falls in the middle of the chasm, like dead center, and he climbs back up the cliff. How? He was
Because
in the middle. He was in the middle of the cliff, and he somehow, injured because he's limping, climbed back up to save Rey.
I'm telling you, Brett. Once they fall outside the Death Star, this is when the movie went downhill. And like, nothing made any sense anymore. Nothing.
Oh my God, let's talk about that scene. So, call back to the horrible casino scene, right? They come in and they're like, jam their speeders or whatever. First of all, Empire or First Order or Final Order, whatever your name is, how are they going to do speeders on the top of a Death Star? So, or Star Destroyer. My bad. I'm sorry, guys. I've been drinking a little bit, but like, okay, they're like jam the speeder bikes, and then bam, they're riding the space horses. How in the like altitude? It is hard to breathe the further you get up. Okay, I did helo jumps when I was in the service, and we had to wear masks because the further you go in the air, the thinner the air is. Now, these things are levitating in midair. I'm going to guess where the stars would be. So, how the fuck do you have horses and people riding horses with no mask on doing a charge on a ship? Like,
Because, bruh. There you go.
like for me, I don't get like okay, doing the whole, I get what you were trying to go for. Oh, they can't jam the machines because they're not using machines, they're using horses. Okay, in theory, that would be a good plot twist. But now you're talking about being uh, thousands of feet in the air with no oxygen, a animal running on top of a ship. Just everybody in the audience, stop and think about how fucking stupid that is. Like, the air is thin and they're still able to move fine and dodge and all of this stuff. Let me tell you something. When people who are Olympic trainers, right, when they're getting ready to do records or stuff, one of my favorite people, Sean, I forget his last name, but he's a big snowboarder, right? He was getting ready to do this big snowboard jump off of Everest. And he was saying he had to do high altitude training because the higher up you go, and Everest is pretty fucking high, the thinner the air. So it's harder to breathe. So your lungs aren't conditioned. So you have to slowly condition your lungs to handle the lack of oxygen. So you're going to tell me that people who are fighting in the fucking stars are going to have this amazing ability to adapt to thin air. And like in one scene, when they rescue Ray, Poe goes out onto the little ledge thing with a mask on, right? An oxygen mask, I assume. And then they do this end battle, and none of them have oxygen masks or anything to compensate for the fact that they're fighting really fucking high in the air. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, maybe I'm just nitpicking, but I mean, am I off base here?
No, no, you're not nitpicking, man. I mean, I don't think you're nitpicking, but man, they they just make up rules as they go in this sequel trilogy. They do.
Because, I mean, how are you going to have Finn in one scene having an oxygen mask? And honestly, he's just hovering to meet Ray so she can do that amazing Ray leap onto to their ship. That's what I'm calling it, the Ray leap, because that was uh, I don't even want to get into that big fucking tangent. But okay, so she does the Ray leap. I can buy her not needing a mask. She's a Jedi, whatever. I'll chalk it up to the Force. But I notice Finn has a mask. Cool. Now you're going to go to the end of your movie and you're going to have a ton of people charging on horses in the middle of a fucking ship, hovering thousands of feet in the air with no mask.
The space horses. Don't you forget that.
I like what Thomas says. He said, "Nope, definitely not. But I give up. It's done." Thomas, I agree with you because um like you said, LB, it's changing the rules. And look, when you're making a film, there comes a point where you do have challenges, but I feel like when writing this film, no one sat back and looked at the other scenes that they did because I feel like there had to be one person who looked at that scene and then looked at the end scene and goes, well, this is kind of off. I mean, I know it's a little detail, but I mean, this is shit that the top critics should be looking for because it is a clear problem. You're talking about a whole regiment of people on your final battle having a big fight. This is your crucial, pivotal moment. Everyone in the audience is going to be watching this. And I know most of the moviegoers aren't going to see things like that, but people who do what we do will notice it. I mean, that's the shit that's wrong with this movie.
Yeah.
So we get to Ray, we get to the final battle. We have the Sith Um, did I'm a huge fan of Star Wars. I know the lore. I have no clue what the fuck that temple was. I've watched Rebels and everything else. I watch Rebels. I watch Clone Wars. I watch all that shit. And LB, I've never seen a ton of Sith in one room. So when I get to that, I'm like, oh my god, this is supposed to be an extinct race. Like literally, they established in Star Wars, there's only one Sith and there's only one Jedi. So how the fuck is there a huge room with a bunch of Sith in robes worshiping Palpatine?
I don't know. I'm just gonna say they clones.
Like once again, and I heard this said, I believe on Jeremy's channel, right? He was like, he felt like JJ had this go big theory, and you know what? I'm kind of inclined to agree, right? He does the Force lightning. Well, in the old Star Wars, he Force lightninged Luke, and so JJ's like, "Fuck that! I'm gonna make him take out a fleet." Like, and oh my god, that scene. Oh, the more I talk about it, the more I just find more stuff. It's like you're telling me, like, he has the power to knock out a whole. How? This was never like it took Kylo and Rey together to have the little tug of war with that transport, and that was a lot of energy. And he just shoots fucking lightning in the air and disables a whole entire armada. Then why does he need the Star Destroyers? He's literally a walking weapon. What's the point in building an armada of star killers if you could just fucking zap everything with your hands?
Because, bruh. That's all I got for that.
um uh hold on. Oh no.
What? Oh, well, General Zod disappeared. So I guess it's just me. It's just a lonely man. Well, I guess I'll do some self promo for those that are here. I do have a spoiler review. Oh, you're back. Welcome back.
Yeah, don't press the back button. Perp is in the chat. Perp, I set the leak in the Fandom Zone bridge crew. So that link is in there, buddy, for you to hit.
Here goes the
look,
trolling.
look at the rebellion here in the chat, LB. Everyone was like, "Woo, LB stream," and then Cybernetic Husky, and then they said, "Damn, he is back." Look at this. You have a captive audience, LB.
Man, don't listen to Cybernetic Husky. He ain't never in his life come to one of my streams for longer than 2 seconds.
So I mean, uh, right there is a pretty. It's a pretty big. It's a pretty big plot because it's like, all right, I can buy very with a lot of imagination. I can buy that you fitted a whole armada with these super laser cannons. But then, like, if you gained all this power, then why do you need the fleet? If you could literally just zap a whole fleet of people, then why do you need Death Star ships?
Because, like, there ain't no logic to none of this stuff. It's just making stuff up as they go. That's all it is.
Hold on, let me see here. Uh, can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Sometimes when I scroll in between my apps, this thing acts funny. But yeah, I'm just like, a lot of this stuff is just like you have to dispend so much belief that it gets to a point where it's like, you know,
Yeah.
oh, welcome, Wowie.
All right, all right, I found the link. All right, what's up,
Hello.
y'all?
What's up, Perp?
Chilling, chilling, chilling. Just got out the movies.
All right, Perp. So you have a fresh take, and let me get your point of view on this, and what are you feeling?
Um, I mean, let me get out like the dislikes out the way because there are dislikes, but that doesn't it doesn't make me hate the film. The whole Palpatine thing that could have been that could have been taken out, but the whole Ray and Kylo shit, I like that. That was pretty interesting. Uh, I think the standout for me, like watching the second time, was actually Poe. Poe was actually dope in this, you know. But how do y'all feel about it? Because I didn't really get y'all take.
Not good.
I I gave it a 5 now. I looked at it objectively, but there's so much that that does stand out. And okay, you said a good point that we were just covering, right, with the Emperor. This was clearly just thrown in, right? And you like the Kylo Ren scene. And I was saying to LB earlier, you've established that Kylo Ren killed Han, right? So
Mm-hmm.
he's already a badass. And I'm not
Mm-hmm.
gonna lie, I was digging the whole him rebuilding the mask or whatever. But one, he wasn't really in the movie that much. And two, you could have used him as your villain. He could have been the villain of the film instead of forcing Palpatine in. Why not just run with Kylo Ren running the First Order, and you have an
I
even
mean, he,
ratio?
I mean,
Kylo
he already,
1-1, Ray 1-1
I mean,
makes
he
this a
already,
final battle.
he already does run the First Order. He's the supreme leader. So,
Yeah, he is, but he's still not. He doesn't have. Okay, he doesn't have that feeling like, let's go back to the old trilogy, like Palpatine did, where you knew that he was speaking through Lord Vader, even though he wasn't directly on the ship until the return the Return of the Jedi. Even though you never saw him, you felt his presence there.
how
Kylo doesn't have that.
how I took it though is when he was fighting Ray, which by the way, I like to say that this is why I say like if Kylo wasn't injured in Force Awakens, he would have it'd been easy. But the moment that I thought it was perfect how they did it though, because he was about to kill her, and like he would probably gone full dark side, but then Leia died, and that kind of triggered him. He got stabbed. He felt bad, and I think that's why they brought up that whole in the Mandalorian where he saw the Baby Yoda heal what's his face and stuff. I feel like that comes from that, but I don't know. I could be off on that.
No, you do bring up an interesting point with the healing, because they never went that far with the healing until we had the Mandalorian episode 7 when he did that healing thing, and now you had Ray in this movie do it twice.
Mm.
So,
And I
you
like
know,
that there's a trade off to it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's not like unlimited.
yeah, I kind of saw the setup here, but that that's my problem. I felt like this movie, it tried to do fan service, but it did it in a very it was poorly executed. It was like I was saying to LB earlier when we were talking about this. Like, I see the intention, and I see that, JJ was trying to put a fix on some of the things in Last Jedi. What How he executed just does not come off very well at all.
That's interesting.
I mean, because take a lot of the scenes where they throw in the fan service, right? Now,
Mm.
some of them are cool. Like, I like the scenes with Lando. I thought that was Lando Calrissian. Me and LB were talking about that. That felt very much like Lando. Like, he stood out pretty well in the film, even though he had a small role. But then, like, you get the stuff like with that, or like with the whole end scene with Palpatine. I mean, come on. That,
What do you mean?
like it's just, she holds that force lightning with one lightsaber, and then she grabs the other lightsaber. Now, here's the thing that I had a problem with.
Uh-huh.
This man, we're gonna assume, spent years planning the return of the Final Order, right? So you spend all this time, you do all this planning. He's meticulous, he's calculating, whatever. And you're telling me he's gonna overlook a detail like where the lightsabers are. Like, why would you push? And the other thing too, he pushed Kylo Ren into the middle of the fucking chasm, and then Kylo climbs up. I mean, like, you seen where he fell. He fell.
Yeah.
You saw it twice. He fell in the center of that pit, not to the left, not to the right, not even remotely close to like, he was dead center of the pit, and then he climbs out of it later to save Rey.
I mean, I looked at it like with the whole Ray scene and stuff. I looked at it again because it kind of didn't really hit me because I thought it was kind of somewhat poetic when she's holding Luke, and well, not Luke's lightsaber, but like Anakin's lightsaber and like Leia's lightsaber. That was pretty crazy. I didn't really like think about that at first, but then I can understand why some people don't like it though. It's cool. I
So
am.
let me ask you, because I know you've defended Last Jedi, and you're rocking the trilogy. What is your rating on this? And then tell me scenes that work for you, and then what you had a problem with in the story.
Where I put this, I would honestly put this over Last Jedi. It's better than Last Jedi, I would say.
I mean,
Uh,
that's not hard to do because
hey man, like it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? You either like the movie, you don't like the movie. I felt like there was no real major issues with it. I did finally see that scene in Last Jedi where like the little blade disappears. I was like, damn, that was quick. Like you would definitely miss that if you weren't like paying attention to it. But yeah, I didn't like. I mean, like the whole Palpatine thing. Him like in the little he was in the little fucking was that the Kevin Conroy fucking Infinite Crisis suit? That seems to be the thing to do nowadays. I do like that, we find out where Rey comes from now. She's a Palpatine. That's interesting. I like the pacing of the movie. It just goes to one spot and just then to the next. They don't really waste no time or nothing like that. It just goes, just keeps going.
they, they,
It's pretty.
they did that so you don't think about all the stupidness that happened in the movie.
I mean, I see it for the second time, so it's like I pick up on certain things. You know what I'm saying? Like, but
Okay, so I'm sitting here breaking this down, right? And
Mm.
you saw it twice, so you got the fresh eyes here. You literally coming out of it. Now tell me how in one scene,
Hey,
Finn.
Zod, check your private message on StreamYard.
Okay. Um. T tell me how Finn is wearing an oxygen mask, right? When Ray does her Ray flip, that's what I'm calling him now. Um, and she flips on to the Millennium Falcon, right when they're getting away, and he has an oxygen mask because they're hovering above where the Death Star is or whatever, or the Star Destroyer. I'm sorry, I'm thinking of those fucking cannons. So they're hovering with the Star Destroyer, and she jumps off or whatever. Now Finn wears a mask. This makes sense. They're in a high altitude. The air is thin, whatever. Now, then you get to the end of the movie. There's space horses, and all of these people charge out. No one's wearing any gear for a high altitude. And I said, I know this is a little nitpick, but this is a detail that should be in your story, because if you're going to put him having an oxygen mask on for a pickup, which that altitude was fairly lower than what those all those Star Destroyers were hovering at the end, right? And now you're telling me you have a whole armada of people who come out of this thing, no oxygen mask, in a high elevated plane, and they're fighting perfectly fine. I mean, you have Olympic trainers who have to train when they deal with just going from a low altitude to high altitude because the air gets thinner, so it's harder to breathe. And you're telling me all of these people is able to just glide on top of this Star Destroyer perfectly fine, no gear.
You make a good point, but I don't think they were that high up. To be honest, not
Dude,
like close to
they
space.
were they were thousands of feet in the air. The Star Destroyers were getting ready to take off to do the little hyperspace jump till they stopped them dead in their tracks. They're hovering. They're on their way, getting ready to launch to other planets. And, and I would have never noticed this, but like you, I saw the movie for a second time. And when I came in, I knew I was going to have a discussion, and we were going to talk about it. So I really wanted to break it down. And you know what? I know this is a little nitpick, but this is the problem with the movie, and I think this is a problem that people won't admit.
I
Is
mean,
that
I'm not saying that you're wrong. You know what I'm saying? I would have to probably look at it again, but just like I definitely was paying attention to that. I was like, they're definitely not in space. So
yeah, but still, you got to account for it. I wouldn't have noticed it, or I would not have noticed it. It would have just like I would have been like, cool, whatever, space horses. You got to have a final battle. It wouldn't have bothered me if they didn't have him wear an oxygen mask for that one pickup, and then everyone's fine thousands of feet in the air across the Star Destroyer. Like, and the other thing is too, they're like high up, and like no one thinks to tilt the wing or anything like that. They stay perfectly level. Like, there's a lot of little issues that make the whole scene not work, because when you logically break it down, my problem is I felt like LB said, and we said earlier when we were talking about this, like JJ threw a lot of things in to distract people from the real glazing issues. And like you said, what's the point of Palpatine? Just so he can die. He serves no purpose to the story. He's not set up in Force Awakens. He's not mentioned in The Last Jedi. There's nothing. And then all of a sudden, we're supposed to believe in one movie that he's been the one controlling everything behind the scenes. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, well, he was always in the shadows, but he always was known. Every movie, they always let you know that, yeah, you might not see him, but he's still there. In this movie, they just throw him in there. No context, no nothing. You get the opening crawl, and that's it. And we're supposed to buy that for years. This was his plan all along.
Right. Like you're trying to tell me your plan was to die, then come back and have your granddaughter rule the entire game. Man, bro, get out of here, man. Like, get out of here. Like, for real.
Power makes a person do some crazy ass thing.
I mean, come on, Perp. Let me ask you a serious question. I know you're a fan of Rey. We've established you're a fan of Rey. Is that the backstory you really wanted? I mean, out of all the hundred,
I'm honestly cool with her just being the grandchild of Palpatine. That's pretty
It
interesting.
makes no sense.
Why doesn't it?
It don't. Like, look at the timeline. Look at the timeline from when Palpatine died in the Return of the Jedi to this. Like, how is she his granddaughter?
I mean, if we're going lineage, she would have to be his great granddaughter. And
no, it wouldn't be that old, but like, I just don't believe it. I just don't believe she could be his granddaughter. I mean, we don't know Rey's age, but we're assuming she's in her 20s. Because, like I said earlier, Palpatine is old in Episode 3.
I'd probably say she's probably like, they probably put her almost at 30 because Kylo's 30 something.
That still doesn't make sense. So that's saying she was born at the end of the Return of the Jedi. And Palpatine, he dies at the end of Return of the Jedi. So like, it makes absolutely no sense. Like that it doesn't. It don't.
Yeah.
see, and Perp, it's not. We all agree this movie is better than Last Jedi. But the problem is not the quality of the film. I mean, the problem is, I feel like JJ should have not done fan service, but instead should have just tried to construct his own movie. Like, I mean, Kylo Ren, people already hate him. Make him the villain. Why go a route where you gotta explain more stuff? You have your antagonist right there.
This is what J.J. Abrams does with his writing. This is what he does. I mean, I know he didn't. He was the executive producer of Lost, but like, I know he didn't do the final episode. I haven't seen it because I never watched Lost. But y'all remember how Lost ended?
Oh, LB, don't you? You know my feelings on Lost.
Them first 5 seasons were fire. That's all that matters.
That ain't got nothing to do with what I'm saying.
Just saying.
It has nothing to do with what I'm saying.
It's the ending, Perp. It's like, I feel like he has a problem.
I mean, there's nothing that, no, you don't have to feel that way. It has come out of his own mouth that he is not good at endings. Like, bruh, they was setting us up for this with this press tour. They was letting us know, like, hey man, we got nothing here. Like, I want to see one of these people that love this movie explain to me how Rey is Palpatine's granddaughter. I want to see this one.
Yeah, I mean,
and like, straight up, and think about this.
Hard knocking boots.
Straight up, think about this one. The whole plan of making Kylo Ren the puppet, I'm pulling the strings on him because he needs to get Kylo Ren to bring Rey to him. Like, he created Snoke just for this. Like, what? Bruh. So,
like, it's like, it was like really disjointed storytelling, because you know, you could feel that that part of the movie wasn't planned. I would be very curious to see exactly where he wanted to go. And I mean, Perp, honestly, watching the movie twice, coming fresh out of the theater, do you feel like this was the direction that he was going in, or that there was a different plan? Because this couldn't have been this felt like so forced to try to fix stuff
And
that was wrecked.
What are you saying, LB?
Oh,
I was gonna add, like, also he mentioned that he was in Kylo's head the entire time. So Palpatine can when was it established that he was in Kylo Ren's head? Like when did he like I could have forgot from Last Jedi and Force Awakens, but when was
when
it
he was
mentioned?
talking, when he
When was it ever mentioned that Kylo Ren had voices in his head?
but you remember when he was talking to Vader's helmet, he's like, I will finish what you started. He was talking to himself.
yeah, there was purpose right about that.
Okay, but
He heard
he was
Vader.
talking to Vader.
Yeah,
Yeah, but we don't know if like that would pretty much link that up. Him hearing Vader's voice in his head.
So Palpatine could put just anybody's voices in people's heads. Like, come on, man.
I like that. That's a pretty dope ass, because he's the one that linked him and
Bro, that
right together.
hey, I don't remember every single detail of Star Wars movies, but Mr. Zod, when was this ever established that Palpatine could just put voices in people's heads?
it wasn't. See, here's the and that was a nitpick of mine. Palpatine, I consider kind of like the devil, and just bear with me with my analogy. Palpatine is a manipulator, but honestly, he couldn't change his voice. What he would do is he would manipulate situations around people to get his desired effect. So, like, remember, and this is for both of you guys because I know you followed this canon. Remember when Anakin went back in Clone Wars and he killed all of the Sand people, right? So when he did that, he confided in Palpatine, and Palpatine fostered that. And he was like, "Oh yeah, you know, they killed your mother. You did what had to be done. No one would understand that, but I do." It was never he changed his voice and like blatantly manipulated people. When he did it, it was very subtle. That's what made his character so scary, was the fact that he mixed truth with lies. Like he would be like, "Oh yeah, you did this horrible thing, but you had to do it. It was for the greater good." He never just outright, like, it was never established he outright like did stuff like that. Or even mind control or anything like that. He let people he let people you know, dictate their own actions.
I mean, to
And
me,
then he stepped back.
my interpretation of him is he was the master manipulator. But
Yeah,
I never saw it that he could just put voices into people's heads.
I mean, like Star Wars has like certain Star Wars stories have suggested that there's Jedis who can do like suggestions, but with other Jedis, and Kylo Ren is a Jedi, they can't be manipulated with Force powers. So that right there would debunk that theory of him being able to change his voice into Vader, because Jedi can't be manipulated like that. Like the Sith could cloud their visions, and the Sith can throw a blanket over what they see and the outcome of certain things, but they can't openly manipulate each other. They would cancel each other out.
And like I said, everything in this movie happens because.
Wowie said, and welcome, Wowie. Thank you for coming to the channel. He said he puts voices in Anakin's head. Yes, but the voices that are playing in Anakin's head, like, yes, maybe he did, but I thought of that more as Anakin's guilt. Like, those things replayed in his nightmares. And there was a scene actually in I believe it was episode 3, where he wakes up in cold sweats, envisioning what he did to the sand people. So I don't think it was him putting in images. It was just more of him heightening and bringing attention to the things that he's already done. But I mean, nowhere in the lore that I know that even established he could do that. But then again, he cheated death. So, we're throwing out the rules.
And y'all remember it's Star Wars. And yeah. None of it's real. Anyways.
I mean, this is my big problems is if I look at this from a Star Wars perspective, there's a lot more stuff that doesn't make sense to the continuity of Star Wars. If I throw that out, which I have to, and I look at it from just a pure movie, just break this down to a regular movie, and we do story, and we do beginning, middle, and end, it doesn't make sense. And I'll tell you what, I do not feel, and Burp, I know I'm going to hurt your soul on this, and I'm sorry, but I don't feel like Rey earns her journey. I just don't, because I don't feel like there's much of an earned arc there. Like
the arc is because, bruh. Because
like,
she's Rey.
Like, when you look at something like, okay, Perp, that scene where she killed Chewie, or supposedly killed Chewie, right? I thought they should have killed Chewie right there. Because if you gave her a consequence to her powers, I thought that would have been more impactful, right? If she had to live with the guilt of killing her best friend because she couldn't control her powers, I think that would have been more impactful. But like the moment where they're like, "Oh, he's alive," I'm like, "That's fucking Disney." It's like, how? Like, that's another thing. When we only see one transport, how are you gonna say he was on another transport? Like,
because, bruh.
So where did the other transport fly off to? Like,
I mean, I honestly thought I missed something at that part. Like, I thought maybe I was writing and I missed it because when they said another transport, I was like, okay, where was this other transport? I didn't see this.
I saw it twice. I didn't see the second transport. I didn't see another ship fly off.
Man.
And that's the problem. That's the problem with JJ's writing. Like, don't get me wrong. The good intent is there, but the execution is poor. Like, would it have been so hard to like pan your camera over or something and like have that scene happen, but then like show off to the side, maybe something a little bit faint that the audience can pick up a second time around? This brings up your replayability, right? Like maybe in the background there's a quick cut to where another ship is taking off. And then when they say, "Oh, Chewie's alive," you go, "Oh, the second ship was the ship we saw taking off. So Chewie wasn't dead." You know what I mean? You could do it very subtly. Movies have done it. I mean, it's just little stuff like that where the director is asking you to dispense so much disbelief and not giving you a reason to dispense your disbelief, like backtracking on scenes, like that little thing that I pointed out with the space horses. That's a minor thing. Most people probably won't even pick that up, but someone who's really watching,
they definitely weren't horses. I don't know what the fuck they were.
I want to say they were those things that was on the casino planet in Last Jedi. Remember
No,
it wasn't those little.
Those Jones is a lot bigger than those shits.
Wowie, I agree with you. So you know what, panel? Let's talk about that. I'll start with you, LB. What did you think about C3PO? Because honestly, I'm gonna say he was also, at least for me, one of the good uh aspects of the film.
I mean, he's C3PO. I mean, he's just there.
Yeah, that that cone head droid was funny as hell. No, the who was the dude that was working on oh what's his face? He's a little dude.
I forgot his name.
He was funny as
Bungie,
shit.
Benji, or something. Benji
Yeah, he was
something.
funny as shit. And there was like that little Cardi B, because as soon as I heard, I was like, "Is that Cardi B? Like, did she got a little credit on this movie or some shit?" They had like fucking Spanish speaking fucking aliens and shit.
But I mean, yeah, it was just, man, there was, I mean, there's a lot, but I mean, like, in the end, I put this, I put this over Last Jedi, but still, honestly, my
Think
score
about
lays at a
His,
5 because
okay, I just googled it. His name was Babu Frick. He's a droid smith
just
on
think about this.
Kajimi.
Like, as I was walking out the second time, right, I'm like, damn, yo, there's no more Skywalkers. Yes.
Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
No, it
I'm not a
wasn't.
problem with
That
that.
was stupid.
You don't want to be going around like, yeah, I'm Ray Palpatine. Like, what? People with no last names are weird. Shouldn't trust them.
So what was the point of Broom Boy in the Last Jedi then?
That's probably the next generation.
Broom Boy is the same type of character as the random waitress in Avengers, the first Avengers, just there
Oh,
just because.
oh, talk about waste. I knew they were going to Black Order these motherfuckers. The Knights of Ren.
yeah, that was, like, why did they even? They had one scene where they did anything.
They're the Black Order. Man, I had fun with the movie. It was dope seeing people like dress up and shit. I was like, people still do that. That's interesting. Yeah, I had fun with it though.
I'm glad that you did.
Thank God. Now, what people gonna talk about? No Star Wars for like after the Mandalorian. It's looking kind of dry. So
Clone Wars comes out.
man, ain't nobody worried about that shit.
Oh, you crazy. I'm sorry. I am sorry, Perp, but I'm gonna have
That
to call
lame ass
hardball
CG
shit. I've been
Bruh,
waiting for
bruh.
this.
That lame
Did
ass
you see
CG
the hype?
animation.
Did you see all the hype that came out when they announced they was dropping a new Clone Wars season? Boy, you don't stop trolling.
Man.
That mess
And
was
they got-
trending for days.
Man, I want to get to Clone Wars. To be honest, I just don't like that 3D animation. I'm just never a fan of that shit. Never been a fan.
Hey, that's
Okay,
cool.
you know what? You know, I'm sorry, Perp. I'm gonna take the asshole route on this one. Why in the world, or let me rephrase that. How in the world could you like legitimately be like, Last Jedi is all right, this movie's all right, but a show that has probably the tightest writing, and keep in mind this is an animated / kids show with adult themes that spans a whole decade and it connects two movies eloquently. I mean, literally, Revenge of the Sith piggybacks off of what Clone Wars did. How could you not be hyped about that?
It's simple. 3D animation. That's a deal breaker for me. I don't care how good the story is. That's cool. That 3D animation. I'll probably get around to it sometime, but it's just like I'm not hyped for it. Like 3D animation is just not my thing. That's just hard for me to get through. I can't like look at that shit. Looks nasty.
I feel the same about anime.
Nah, but anime, that's real animation.
No, but this is actually a good discussion to have because it it definitely shows the differences. Like LB's a hard pass on anime, where you and me could talk anime for days, and you're a hard
Yeah.
pass on 3D animation, where I'm like, that's fine.
That's
And
just
you know what?
that's just hella lazy. That shit's trash.
But you know what? Here's the thing that I want to highlight really quick just to get sidetracked. But all three of us here have difference of opinions, right? And we're all hashing it out. How much you want to bet, guys, that we're going to have tons of people? As we talk right now, there's probably like 30 people streaming, all with like such rigid views. And don't get me wrong, I'm not completely hating on this movie. I'm just saying there's shit in it that doesn't make sense from a movie perspective. Like, and honest to God, what critics should be doing and telling us perspective. And here we are.
I'm cool. I'm cool on Star Wars. I had my fun. The saga is ending. It is done. Skywalkers are dead. You know what I'm saying? On to the next. Power.
You always trolling, bro. Why you just can't talk about the movie, bro? Like, seriously. Nobody want to hear that nonsense, man. We was having a perfectly fine discussion, bro.
Lighten up a little bit.
No, bro. We having a perfectly fine discussion talking about the movie, and here you go with this trolling nonsense.
I'm not trolling.
Man, whatever.
It's good to see. It's good to see like we have different differing opinions on the film, but we recognize its flaws. And like here we can sit here almost for me 2 in the morning, and we can talk about the clear issues that this thing has, and what we like, what we dislike. And like I'm gonna start with LB. What do you think right now the hype is around the YouTube verse?
Oh, I mean, when I put up my spoiler reviews and like I did a YouTube search, like most of them hate it.
Yep.
I mean, like I'm not looking at the typical chills that love everything Disney does, but like most people hate it. Like I'm looking at the thumbnails, the descriptions, hate it. I mean, I've been browsing some forums, and I see people saying they love it. I'm just like, okay, what is
they
the
made
love?
They made a decision like 2 years ago about this movie.
And you know what though? Perp has a good point.
Just like you made your decision to love the movie.
Hey,
and LB's got a good point there too. I think this comes down to that people in their mind have already made a decision. So let me ask you two gentlemen from both of our angles. This is a true testament that film is subjective, and like it really pisses me off. And one thing I wanted to talk about with both of you guys, because I wasn't able to have you on when I did this stream with Proper, and now I would like to address it. But dude, this petty bullshit with spoiling this movie, man, that just pisses me off. And I know like you had said something, LB, and I know Perp. What you went dark?
That's just fucking lame.
Like, you know what?
It's like
so
I want to say something about that real quick.
Did Shellback leave when you told him he can't be on the panel?
He might have.
I want to say something about that. Right? Where was that same energy when Avengers Endgame came out and like you had all them leaks and shit? Nobody wanted to hear them shits, but it's a movie that you don't like, so you're just like, fuck it, we're just gonna ruin the experience for somebody that actually is looking forward to the movie. Cool.
I 100% agree. I 100% agree. I think that it's kind of unfair. I told this story to my mom, and she agreed with me because, Mama Zod is a very level-headed person, probably more level-headed than me. And I'm like, Ma, let me ask you something. If you were, to go on Facebook and stuff, because she does all that stuff, and I was like, and someone just gave you the end of the movie, how would you feel? And she goes, I've tracked that fucker down and beat their ass. And it's like, you know, you had fights. Like I had someone come out of my theater of Endgame, right? And they yelled out that Iron Man died. They were talking with their friends, but they were drinking and it was kind of obnoxiously loud. And I had to grab this guy. He put down his popcorn. He put down his soda. He was going into the next showing of Avengers, and he just makes a beeline to tackle this dude, and I assume beat the shit out of him. And I tackle this dude midway, and I go, look, how he gets there is worth watching this movie, okay? It's not worth you going to jail for whooping someone's ass. And, I calmed the guy down, and, everything turned out well. But you had people getting their ass whooped for spoiling the end of Endgame. And now we go to Star Wars, and you got people who are just accepting that it's okay to show literal clips of the movie. I mean, first of all, this is bad on Disney's part, because how the fuck would you, with Disney pulling down videos like they do on YouTube for fucking music, and you're telling me you can't control leaks on Twitter and Facebook and all, Reddit and all that shit? Like, how does that happen?
Twitter is very inconsistent. You could post pretty much about anything on there, so it's not going to have the same regulations as like YouTube and stuff like.
Bro, people just lame, man, and
for real, it's how desperate are you for views? To be honest, that's real shit. Like when people come out with these leaks and all this shit, like how desperate are you for views? For real.
Like, let me see. For example, I made a tweet about it the other day, and let me read one of the responses. Golden rule, though: if you don't want a movie spoiled, avoid social media till you have seen it. I have had a pile of movies and books spoiled for just glancing at social media. No, bruh. No. Don't excuse idiots being idiots. How about they don't spoil the movie? Straight up, if you wanna spoil something, go to a forum, go to a Reddit where you can do that. Don't be posting your social media on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or whatever spoilers. People see that. It don't matter if you hide this type of stuff. You still can see it. Like Twitter, for example, like Facebook, like when you like somebody's post, it shows their post, the other person's post, even if you don't follow that person. It's like, man, these people are stupid, man. It's like,
yeah, it's.
I heard it. Like, I didn't see none of this stuff because I stayed off of social media, and I had apps that filtered out Star Wars, like everything. So it's like, but people were DMing me, telling me man, it's real bad. Like people are legit just spoiling the movie, and it's mainly the fandom menace collective people. It's like, man, y'all are trash, man.
Even this is better, right? I see somebody on my timeline. They went to go see the movie. They're literally giving you a play-by-play on their Twitter and shit. Like, this shit is terrible. This shit is horrible. I'm like, that bitch, get your money back. Like,
it's like, come on, man. Like, y'all gotta do better, man. So what if you hate the movie? Don't ruin it for other people.
Yeah, I mean, it's, look, there's a difference between not liking something and being like, this sucks. And, like I said in the beginning of this, I said, hey, spoilers, just in case you don't want it spoiled, right? There's a difference. You put it in your thumbnail or whatever else. So when people go in, they know, hey, we're going to talk spoilers. So if you didn't catch the 15 warnings, that's on you. But when you go on a platform like Reddit or Facebook or Twitter, those threads and stuff, they stay up forever. And it's kind of funny. They will sit there and pull down a stupid statement that you say, but they won't pull down someone who takes a picture of their screen and posts it, a literal end scene. Like, I was tagged in a thread. I'm like, man, you guys are lucky I saw this on like Wednesday. Because I got lucky. I got a pre-screening of it that was for like people who work in the theater when we're like getting ready to have a movie put in. Sometimes we get test screenings. So, a few select people get to see that. But it's like, it wasn't ruined for me, but it's like, come on, man. Like, that's not fair to people who legitimately want to experience the movie and who may like it. And you know what? Don't take that away from them. It might not have been for us, or maybe we have our issues, but I mean, at the end of the day, that's just kind of shitty to ruin the experience of going to the movies and experiencing it for yourself. Let people form their own opinions. Yeah, it's just kind of like you guys said, it's just kind of lame. I mean,
Brad, did you recognize the voices at the end? When Rey like did the whole I am the Jedi or whatever nonsense. Like I knew they were previous Jedi, but I couldn't recognize all the voices. But like the post credit scenes showed who they were. It was Anakin, Ahsoka, Mace, Obi-Wan, Yoda, and Qui-Gon and a few other people.
Yeah, I recognize Mace and Ahsoka because that's my girl, but I didn't recognize some of them.
Yeah, like I recognized Qui-Gon, like, and Ahsoka, but like Anakin and the rest of them is like I was just like, anyway, but that makes no sense to me. Like they all talk to her now. Why didn't they talk to Kylo Ren, or why didn't they talk to like Luke when him and Kylo Ren before he tried to kill Kylo Ren? Like,
because
crap.
he was evil.
Just doing stuff just to do stuff, man.
Yeah, so it's a lot of like, and I get the nostalgia, the nod or whatever that they're going for. And like I said, part of me could get on board with that, but the way he placed things, it was very odd and just out of place. It's like the more he tried to put a nod in, the more it made the storytelling very uneven.
And you know what's crazy? Thinking about it. So Kylo Ren looks up to Darth Vader. They get Anakin to speak to Rey, but they couldn't get Anakin to speak to Kylo Ren in the whole trilogy. No plan, just making it up as they go. Hey man, I'm done. This is gonna keep making me more mad, man. I got nothing else more about this. Like,
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely interesting. So, let's go down the line, and LB, let me get some final thoughts. And what, if anything, are you looking forward to?
well, I'm looking forward to the fact I don't have to talk about Star Wars movies anymore. Like, I'm gonna talk about the box office. That's it. Like outside of that, man, I'm gonna do my next Finn video and do the box office. That's it. And outside of Mandalorian and Clone Wars, I'm not talking about no Star Wars movie stuff.
You're not gonna make a top 9?
No.
Or out the saga?
No. I ain't doing none of that stuff. I'm done, man. I'm gonna let these fandom people have the Star Wars hate and all that. I'm gonna let them have it, man. I'm through with it. I'm tired of
it. What about you, Supreme Leader Perp?
I mean, like I said, I enjoyed the movie, but I like LB said, I thank God that's over. Move on to bigger and brighter things. And if there's another announcement for another Star Wars movie, we'll talk about it then. But till then, it's been fun. Cool little ride. It took 40 years.
Yeah. We'll see if how the box office is, I guess. For me,
What's it
I don't
tracking?
know.
I don't know. I haven't looked. I haven't looked at
Is
no
it
Star
too
Wars
early
stuff
still?
at all.
Oh,
Yeah, I'd say you'd have to go to Monday because this weekend is not going to post until Monday morning because the box office ends their weekend on Sunday. So they're going to have a rough estimate. And I'm not going to lie to you. Right now, I'm going to disprove all of this bullshit where, like, oh, certain theaters didn't play it or whatever. Look, my theater was packed twice. But,
yeah, there was
like, I mean,
people.
yeah, it was, and I went to the big theater here in town. We're talking like hundreds of seats packed. There was like maybe 4 seats in my row that weren't taken. The rest of the theater was sold out.
Like, believe it or not, like there's people that don't realize that movies come out on Thursday nights, like opening night. That's the opening night. Some people don't realize that. Oh, and Friday and the weekend, that's when it starts. If not, you can go that Thursday.
Yeah, that's true. Um, I do agree. There's a lot of people I talk to, and I mean, this is coming from ground level where they don't realize that the actual premiere of new movies is Thursday, and there's only 2 times. There's 6 and 9:15, at least here. So if you don't get into those 2 times, and those 2 time slots were sold out, I wouldn't have gotten a ticket if my friends didn't take me to see it in 3D. It was a birthday gift. I was like, y'all watch my channel.
Did y'all have
You're
as much?
trying to give me a heart attack.
Did y'all have as many fucking trailers in front of your movie? So I feel like the
What's that?
trailers were going on for like an hour. I felt like I was getting like trailers for an hour before the movie started. I was like, yo, how many
Oh my
trailers?
God.
God damn. Yo.
Yeah, man, they tried to get all the new things. They had like I swear to God, it was like a 10-minute Bond trailer. I'm like, holy fuck, man. You giving this much away for this movie? They're really
I was
they're
like,
really
no.
going for the gold.
I was like, no Birds of Prey, no Wonder Woman, but then I thought about it. I was like, yeah, this is Disney.
Yeah, but then they
That ain't
put
got
James
nothing to do
Bond.
with it.
They probably didn't want that. Oh,
That ain't got nothing to do
maybe
with
all
it, bro.
different movies are different though. I don't know because some people said they had
Yeah, every
the
movie theater is not the same.
like somebody said they had Rise of Skywalker trailer play in front of their movie and shit. I was like, oh, damn, that's a mess.
Yeah, man, it's a strange thing. Yeah, my final thoughts are this. I'm with you guys. Honestly, I'm glad this is over. I'm looking forward to talking about the last episode of The Mandalorian. That's what I'm looking forward to. Man. And I was saying on my channel before when I did my Mandalorian talk, I was saying that I think it's sad that it's more exciting for me getting ready for episode 8 uh, than, you know, seeing this movie. I was more jazzed up about The Mandalorian coming out. Like, I got the calendar that someone sent me in my DM, so I know the day the last episode drops. So I'm going to be looking forward to that. So let's just start wrapping things up. Mr. LB, what you got coming out? What's new? You doing more Star Wars?
No, I'm doing my round table discussion on Sunday, and that's it. Outside of the box office, other than that, I'm not making no. J.J. Abrams said this. Daisy Ridley said that. Oh my goodness, Rotten Tomato score is this.
We got leaks for episode 10.
Yeah, I'm not doing none of that stuff. I'm done,
Oh,
man.
hold on. I got a new person. Mole Talk. I am mad about how they never finished Ezra and Ahsoka's storyline. Your thoughts? Well, hopefully.
F Ezra.
No, see, that's the only point we're gonna disagree. LB, I loved Rebels. I was okay with Ezra, but I would have liked to get Ahsoka's story more. But yeah, um, Moldhawk, I don't know if they're going to exactly finish Ahsoka's story, but you have Clone Wars to look forward to, and they're going to expand upon what happened from when Clone Wars, when she left the council to, Rebels. So we have that to
So
look
wait, wait,
forward
wait,
to.
wait, wait. Ahsoka, she's still alive, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
In like whatever story she's in, she's
yeah.
still
Yeah, she's
alive.
still alive. Ahsoka's still alive.
I mean, cause think about this. When Ray was hearing all those voices, and he said one of them was Ahsoka's. Is she dead now?
I just said she's still alive, bro.
No, no. I think what Perp is saying, where they are at in uh
Hey,
the new
like I
trilogy.
said, every reason on this is because, bro.
Anytime you roll up this movie, LB, you'll be like, man.
Like,
You look 5 years for 5 years now, you'll be like, man, Rise of Skywalker is amazing, masterpiece. Like,
bro, whatever, bro. Stop this nonsense.
Speaking of which, the man who never trolls, Mr. Perk Minded. Tell us about all your Star Wars content you're going to put out on your channel.
man, um, I'm willing to do a Mandalorian review. Expect that. Probably like the second. I don't know. Gonna watch the Christmas Carol FX special that started last night, whatever. Yeah, and now I got my stream on Monday. Stay tuned for that. 10 p.m.
Oh,
Should be interesting. It's gonna be our last live stream for the year. I'm gonna take my ass a break. Not too long, but
hey, man, we all need that time to recoup. I took a few days off.
and Ray is the GOAT. Deal with it. That's all.
Oh, Jesus. Had to get that last bit. And, of course, thank you, everybody. I saw some new faces. So thank you, everybody who popped in and out of here, who asked me questions. I really appreciate it. And, if y'all are liking this content, I went up to 360 subs. So, go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you like what we're talking about. And this Saturday at 3, I will have Odin's movie blog on my channel. Last week I had Josiah Rises. So this week I'm going to have Odin on, and we're going to talk about box office stuff and probably Star Wars. And I'm doing a segment of getting inside different creators, and not just talking about the things we talk about on our channels, but we're going to go into a personal level and see that we're all normal people. This stuff is a persona of people. I'm not really General Zod, even though I look like him right now. There's real people who do this, and I'm going to, get down to how channels are started, why they're started, the inspiration behind the content that people do. I really, with these interviews, want to get to the nitty gritty of what makes a content creator and why they do the things they do. Because I want you guys to understand why we stream for you. So, anyways, thank you very much. You're all breathtaking. And as always, remember the one and only rule here in the Fandom Zone: kneel before General Zod.
Nope. Not at all.